Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Paradise Lost. Robert Kane's fingers traced across the credit card statements scattered on his mahogany desk, each digit representing another betrayal. $50,000 in unauthorized charges stared back at him, mocking his carefully constructed world of control and power. He leaned back in his leather chair, mind already calculating possible moves and countermoves. The other documents laid out before him told an even more damning story. Drained joint accounts, liquidated investment portfolios, and the transfer documentation for their Hamptons vacation home, now solely in his wife's name. The phone on his desk buzzed. "Mr. Kane, the board meeting starts in 15 minutes. His assistant Rebecca's voice came through the speaker. "Cancel it," Robert replied, his tone carrying the same measured control he'd maintained throughout his rise from Boston's streets to Manhattan's towers. "Clear my schedule for the rest of the day. Sir, the Jensen merger can wait." He cut her off, then added, "And Rebecca? Pull everything we have on Michael Thorne. Tax records, business licenses, client lists, everything." "The personal trainer?"
Yes.
Robert's green eyes narrowed as he pulled up the security footage from their home gym on his laptop. There it was, Diane's sessions with Michael always running 15 minutes over. The lingering touches, the private jokes. The intercom clicked off, and Robert returned to analyzing the financial records. Each transaction told its own story of betrayal. Diane had planned this meticulously. He had to give her that. Small withdrawals at first, testing the waters. Then larger ones, timed to coincide with their normal household expenses. The Hamptons house transfer buried under routine paperwork he'd trusted her to handle. A soft knock at his office door interrupted his thoughts. "Dad." Jason stood in the doorway, 16 years old but carrying himself with the composure of someone much older. Robert saw his own sharp features reflected in his son's face, though Jason had inherited Diane's golden hair. But those eyes, those were pure Kane, green and calculating. "Come in," Robert said, watching as his son approached the desk. Jason's gaze swept over the scattered documents, taking in the information with practiced efficiency. "Mom's been busy," Jason observed, picking up one of the credit card statements. "These charges, they're all from places she'd never go. High-end hotels, restaurants we've never heard of." Robert raised an eyebrow. "You've been watching?" "Since the day I saw her delete texts before putting her phone down at dinner." Jason's voice carried no emotion, just cold observation. "She's not as careful as she thinks she is." "And you didn't tell me?" Jason met his father's gaze. "I needed proof first." "Numbers don't lie." He paused, then added, "Don't stress, Dad. I already handled Mom's problem." The words hung in the air between them. Robert studied his son's face, seeing not the child Diane had tried to coddle, but a reflection of himself at that age. Someone who understood that power came from knowledge and control. "Tell me," Robert commanded softly. Jason pulled out his laptop from his messenger bag. "Remember when you gave me access to the home network for my coding projects?" His fingers flew across the keyboard. "I set up a few extra security measures. Keyloggers, email monitoring, phone backups." The screen filled with rows of data, text messages, emails, location records. Mom's been meeting him for 6 months. Usually at the Peninsula, room 1504. Always booked under different names, paid in cash. But the interesting part, Jason clicked through to another screen. "Mr. Thorne has a pattern." Robert leaned forward, a predatory gleam in his eyes as his son laid out the evidence. Michael Thorne wasn't just a trainer targeting a wealthy client. He was a professional, having pulled the same scheme 3 times before. Patricia Morrison, Amanda Hayes, Jennifer Cooper, Jason read off the screen. All former clients. All divorced their husbands within a year of starting training with him. All lost everything in the settlements. "How did you get this?" "The same way Mom's about to lose access to her accounts," Jason replied with a small shrug. "People really should use better passwords. Especially divorce lawyers." Robert felt a surge of pride cut through his anger. He'd always known Jason was sharp, but this was something else. While he'd been focused on building his empire at Phoenix Securities, his son had been developing his own skills in the digital realm. The Hamptons house transfer, Robert mused. Can it be traced? Already on it. Jason pulled up another window. The documentation looks clean, but the timing is interesting. Mom started the paperwork right after Michael's last divorce case was settled. I'm guessing he advised her on how to do it. Robert stood and walked to the bar cart in the corner of his office. He poured 2 glasses of water, one for himself, one for his son. It was a gesture that spoke volumes. Jason had earned his place at the table. We need to be careful, Robert said, handing Jason a glass. Your mother won't expect us to move this quickly. That gives us an advantage. She's meeting him tonight, Jason offered. I tracked the reservation, different hotel this time. Want me to send an anonymous tip to the press? Robert shook his head. No, the press is too unpredictable. We need to control every aspect of this. He took a sip of water, mind working through scenarios. Tell me more about these other women. The ones before your mother. Jason pulled up detailed profiles on each of Michael's previous marks. Patricia Morrison, the socialite whose art collection vanished during her divorce. Amanda Hayes, who lost custody of her children after anonymous evidence of drug use emerged. Jennifer Cooper, whose family business collapsed under SEC investigation shortly after she left her husband. He's good, Jason admitted. Never leaves a paper trail connecting him directly. Always has an alibi. The wives take the fall while he walks away clean. Robert's lips curved into a cold smile. But he's never dealt with someone like us before. He turned to his son. You said you handled Mom's problem. What exactly did you do? Created a backdoor into her accounts 2 months ago when I first suspected something. Tonight, while she's with him, all her credit cards will hit their limits with charges she never made. The Hamptons house transfer will trigger fraud alerts. And every penny she's hidden away will simply vanish. And if she tries to access her emergency accounts? Jason's smile mirrored his father's. What emergency accounts? Robert walked back to his desk, pride warring with a deeper, darker emotion. His son had not only discovered the betrayal but had already set in motion plans to destroy the betrayer. Like father, like son indeed. Dad. Jason's voice carried a note of uncertainty for the first time. Are you angry I didn't tell you sooner? Robert looked at his son, really looked at him. Gone was the little boy who used to beg for bedtime stories. In his place sat a young man who understood the most important lesson Robert had learned on Boston streets. Power belongs to those willing to take it. No, Robert answered honestly. You did exactly what I would have done. Gathered intelligence, secured evidence, and prepared countermeasures before showing your hand. He gestured to the laptop. The only question now is, how far are you willing to go? Jason closed the laptop with deliberate slowness. She betrayed us both, Dad. She betrayed our family. His green eyes hardened. I say we show her exactly what that means. Robert nodded, decision made. Then let's make sure that when we're done, neither of them will ever recover. He picked up his phone. I'm going to make some calls. I want you to compile everything you have on Michael's previous victims, especially their ex-husbands. It's time to build our army. As Jason packed up his laptop, Robert found himself reevaluating everything he thought he knew about his son. Diane had always criticized his parenting style, claiming he was too harsh, too demanding. But she had never understood that he wasn't raising a child. He was forging a successor. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. Diane's name flashed on the screen. Robert let it go to voicemail, imagining her panic when her cards started declining. Soon she would discover her accounts frozen, her safety nets gone. And that would be just the beginning. Dad. Jason paused at the door. Remember when you told me that in business, there's no room for mercy? Robert nodded. I think I finally understand what you meant. As his son left the office, Robert turned to the window overlooking Manhattan. Somewhere out there, his wife was plotting her escape with a man who had destroyed other families for profit. They thought they were the hunters. They were about to learn what it meant to be prey. Chapter 2. The Players. The South End of Boston hadn't changed much in 30 years. Robert Kane stood outside his old apartment building, the brick facade more weathered but still standing. He'd driven here straight from the airport, needing to remind himself of where he came from and why he'd fought so hard to leave it behind. The smell of cheap beer and cigarettes wafted from McGinney's bar across the street, where his father had drunk away their rent money more times than he could count. The old man's words echoed in his memory. The world ain't fair, boy. Either accept being a victim or learn to be the predator. His phone vibrated. A text from Jason. Mom tried to access the Cayman account. Blocked. Robert smiled. Of course Diane would go for the offshore accounts first. She'd watched him build his empire at Phoenix Securities, had played the perfect corporate wife at every charity gala and board dinner. She thought she knew all his secrets. The phone rang. Derek Foster's name appeared on the screen. Tell me you have something, Robert answered. Better than something, Derek's gravelly voice replied. I've got everything. Your boy's research was solid, but my contacts filled in the gaps. Michael Thorne isn't just running romance scams. He's got connections to some heavy hitters in Atlantic City, gambling debts, among other things. He's been photographed with Tommy Vega's crew. Word is he owes them serious money. Robert absorbed this information. Tommy Vega controlled most of the loan sharking operations on the East Coast. Having that kind of leverage could be useful. There's more, Derek continued. Remember Catherine Thorne? Michael's ex-wife? The one before he started targeting wealthy women? Yeah. She's working as a waitress in Queens now. But here's the interesting part. She's been trying to get someone to look into Michael for years. Claims he's got a storage unit full of evidence he uses to blackmail his victims if they ever threaten to expose him. Robert's mind raced with possibilities. Send me everything you have on Catherine. And Derek? I want that storage unit found. Already on it. Oh, and Rob? Margaret Wheeler's been asking about you. Says she's got some ideas about handling the Hamptons house situation. The mention of Margaret brought back memories of his early days in Manhattan. She'd been the first person to give him a real shot, hiring him as a junior analyst when his South End accent still marked him as an outsider. Now she was senior partner at Wheeler and Ross, one of the city's top law firms. I'll call her, Robert promised, ending the call. He walked down the street, past the corner store where he'd worked after school to help pay bills. The owner, Mr. Chun, had taught him his first lessons about business and about keeping secrets for the right price. Another text from Jason. Found something interesting in Mom's email. She's been sending documents to a lawyer in the Caymans. Want me to intercept? Robert typed back. Forward everything to Margaret Wheeler first. Then kill the email account. He reached McGinney's bar and pushed open the heavy door. The interior was dark, smoky, unchanged since his father's days. A few old-timers looked up as he entered, not recognizing the expensive suit and carefully cultivated Manhattan polish. Bobby Kane, a voice called from behind the bar. Never thought I'd see you back here. Mike McGinty had aged, his red hair now gray, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. He'd been the one to find Robert's father that last night, dead in the alley behind the bar. Need information, Mike, Robert said, sliding onto a bar stool. About the old days. Specifically about how certain problems used to get solved. Mike's eyes narrowed. Those days are past, Bobby. You got out. Made something of yourself. Someone's trying to take it all away. Robert's voice was soft, dangerous. Someone who thinks they know how to play the game better than me. Understanding dawned in Mike's eyes. He reached under the bar and pulled out a bottle of the good stuff. Not the watered-down whiskey they served regular customers. Your father, God rest his soul, was a mean drunk, Mike said, pouring 2 glasses. But he knew people. People who could make problems disappear. People who still owe me favors. Robert took a sip, letting the familiar burn ground him. I need names, Mike. And I need them to be discreet. His phone buzzed again. An email from Margaret Wheeler. Documents received. This is exactly what we needed. Meet me tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your son. Mike wrote something on a napkin and slid it across the bar. These guys operate out of Providence now. Tell them Mickey sent you. But Bobby. He leaned in close. Whatever you're planning, remember, there's no coming back from some things. Robert pocketed the napkin and stood, leaving several $100 bills on the bar. I passed the point of no return the moment they betrayed my family. Outside, the street had grown darker, but Robert's path was clear. He'd built himself up from nothing once before. He could do it again. But this time, he wouldn't just survive. He would destroy anyone who dared to threaten what was his. His phone rang again. This time it was Rebecca. "Sir, Mrs. Kane is in the office. She's demanding to see you." Robert checked his watch. Right on schedule. The credit card declines would have started an hour ago. "Tell her I'm out of the country on business." "And Rebecca?" "Record everything she says." He could almost hear his assistant smile. "Already am, sir." Robert hailed a cab, directing it to Logan Airport. As Boston's streets rolled past, he thought about the people who had underestimated him over the years. The prep school kids who mocked his accent. The Wall Street executives who dismissed him as nouveau riche. Each one had learned their lesson. Now it was Diane's turn. She and Michael thought they had orchestrated the perfect escape plan. They were about to discover that they'd started a war they couldn't win. His phone lit up with another text from Jason. "Mom's getting desperate. She tried to transfer the Hamptons house again. The bank flagged it for fraud investigation." "Good," Robert replied. "Keep monitoring. And son, remember, no mercy." The cab pulled up to the airport terminal. Robert straightened his tie, checking his reflection in the window. The South End Street kid was hidden beneath perfect tailoring and practiced sophistication. But he was still there, waiting for the moment to strike. Time to go hunting. Chapter 3. Opening Moves. The penthouse suite at the Peninsula Hotel offered a panoramic view of Manhattan, but Michael Thorne wasn't admiring the scenery. He paced the luxurious space, phone pressed to his ear, listening to Diane Kane's increasingly hysterical voice. "Everything's gone, Michael. The accounts, the credit cards, even the Hamptons house is frozen. How is this possible?" Michael ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, mind racing. He'd done this before, guided wealthy women through messy divorces while keeping his own hands clean. But something felt different this time. "Diane, sweetheart, calm down," he soothed, years of practice making his voice warm and reassuring. "This is just a temporary setback. Your husband's trying to scare you." "You don't understand," Diane's voice cracked. "Robert doesn't do anything temporarily. And there's something else. He knows about the others, Michael. About Patricia and Amanda and Jennifer." Michael froze. Those names were buried deep, protected by careful planning and ironclad NDAs. Even his lawyer didn't have records connecting all three cases. "That's impossible," he said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "He even knows about the storage unit in Queens." The phone nearly slipped from Michael's grasp. The storage unit was his insurance policy, filled with evidence he'd collected on each of his previous conquests, videos, photos, documents that could destroy lives if revealed. No one was supposed to know about it. "Who else have you told about the storage unit?" he demanded. "No one. I never even told my lawyer." Diane's voice dropped to a whisper. "Michael, I'm scared. Robert's not like the others. He's different." Michael walked to the bar and poured himself a scotch, trying to steady his nerves. "Different how?" "You don't understand what he's capable of. The things he's done to build his company." Diane paused. "And Jason, he's just like his father. Maybe worse." "Your teenage son?" Michael scoffed, but something in Diane's tone made him uneasy. "He's not just a teenager, Michael. He's Robert's heir in every way that matters. Last month, a kid at school tried to bully him. The next day, that family's business was under federal investigation. Their house went into foreclosure. They had to move out of state." Michael drained his glass. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we underestimated them. Both of them." The line went dead. Michael tried calling back, but Diane's phone was disconnected. He pulled up his laptop, checking his own accounts. Everything looked normal, but something nagged at him. He'd been careful, always operating through proxies and shell companies. But if Robert Kane had somehow traced his previous divorces, his phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Storage Unit 247, Queens Self-Storage." Ring any bells? Michael's hands shook as he typed. "Who is this?" The response came instantly. Ask Diane about her son's coding hobby. The implications hit him like a physical blow. He'd assumed Jason was just another privileged rich kid. If he'd managed to hack into his files, a knock at the suite door interrupted his thoughts. Michael tensed, then relaxed as he remembered ordering room service. But when he opened the door, the hallway was empty except for a manila envelope. Inside was a single photograph, Michael leaving Patricia Morrison's house 3 years ago, on the night before her divorce settlement. He told that story differently in court. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Patricia herself. "The photos you used to blackmail me? Everyone has them now. You're finished." More messages flooded in. Amanda Hayes, Jennifer Cooper, their ex-husbands, even Catherine, his own ex-wife, all receiving evidence he'd worked years to bury. In his panic, Michael almost missed the email from his accountant. His offshore accounts, the ones where he'd stashed his consulting fees from previous divorces, were empty. Not just transferred, but completely erased as if they'd never existed. "Still think we should be worried about Robert?" Michael spun around. Jason Kane stood in the doorway connecting to the suite's second bedroom, laptop under his arm. The boy's green eyes held the same predatory gleam he'd seen in Robert's. "How did you get in here?" Jason's smile was cold. "I've had access to your accounts for months, including your hotel reservations." He gestured to the laptop. "Amazing what you can do with the right passwords. What do you want?" Michael tried to keep his voice steady. "Want?" Jason laughed. A chilling sound from someone so young. "This isn't about wants. This is about consequences. You and Mom thought you could destroy our family? Now you get to watch your whole life fall apart." Michael lunged for the boy, but Jason was already gone, the door clicking shut behind him. On the coffee table, his phone lit up with a new message, this time from Robert Kane himself. "Thank you for taking such good care of my wife. Now let me return the favor." At 3 a.m., Diane's hysterical call came exactly as Jason had predicted. Robert sat in his home office, listening to his wife's panic with cold satisfaction. Each accusation, each demand was a testament to how completely their plan had worked. "What did you do?" she screamed. "All my accounts are frozen. The Hamptons house is being investigated for fraud. Even my personal credit cards are maxed out with charges I never made." "I haven't done anything, Diane," Robert replied calmly. "Maybe you should ask your boyfriend Michael about his other clients, specifically Patricia Morrison, Amanda Hayes, and Jennifer Cooper. Sound familiar?" The sharp intake of breath told him everything he needed to know. "How did you?" "I'm not the one you should be worried about," Robert cut her off. "Our son seems to have inherited my talent for research. And unlike me, he grew up in the digital age. Amazing what teenagers can do with computers these days." "Jason," Diane's voice cracked. "What have you done to our son?" "I didn't do anything to him. I just taught him the most important lesson. Family is everything. And those who betray family." Robert let the silence stretch. "Well, you're about to find out what happens to them. You can't do this. I'll go to the police, the FBI." "With what evidence?" Robert's voice remained eerily calm. "Every transaction was legal. Every document properly filed. Even the charges on your credit cards match your usual spending patterns. And as for Michael's past, I'm sure his other victims would love to testify about his pattern of seducing wealthy women." "This isn't over," Diane hissed. "You're right. It's just beginning." Robert ended the call and turned to Jason, who had been silently monitoring his laptop throughout the conversation. "Status?" "Everything's in place," Jason reported. "Michael's previous victims have all received their evidence packages. His training contracts are being terminated across the city. And that storage unit in Queens?" A few keystrokes brought up a security camera feed, currently being emptied by some very motivated ex-husbands. Robert studied his son's face, the focused expression, the calculated precision of his movements. Diane had accused him of corrupting their child, but she'd never understood. He hadn't corrupted Jason. He'd prepared him for the real world, a world where power belonged to those strong enough to take it and keep it. "You understand there's no going back?" Robert asked. "Your mother won't forgive this." Jason closed his laptop, his green eyes hard. "She lost the right to forgiveness when she chose him over us." Father and son shared a look of perfect understanding. The war was just beginning, but the first battle was already won. Diane and Michael had thought themselves clever, playing their games of seduction and betrayal. They were about to learn what real power looked like. The Kane men weren't just wealthy, They were predators. And the hunt had only just begun. Chapter 4. Collateral Damage. Rebecca Morrison's heels clicked against the marble floor of Phoenix Securities as she strode toward Robert Kane's office. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows of the 48th floor, but her expression remained grim. After 12 years as his executive assistant, she knew the difference between routine problems and genuine threats. This was the latter. She entered without knocking, one of the few people permitted such privilege. The SEC is launching an investigation into Phoenix Securities, she announced, placing a thick folder on his desk. Anonymous tip about insider trading and client fund misappropriation. Robert didn't look up from his computer screen. Source: Initial trace leads to the office of Deputy Director James Harrison. Rebecca's lips curved slightly. The same James Harrison whose wife was friends with Patricia Morrison, Michael's first victim. Robert mused, finally meeting her gaze. How convenient. They're sending a team tomorrow morning. Full audit going back 5 years. Robert stood and walked to his private bar, pouring 2 glasses of water. He handed one to Rebecca, a gesture she recognized from years of witnessing his strategic planning sessions. Call Margaret Wheeler, he instructed. Tell her it's time to use the Harrison file. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. The offshore accounts? No. The tech company bribes. Robert's green eyes glinted. The ones he buried last year in exchange for certain favors. Those records were sealed by court order. Jason found them anyway. Robert activated his secure phone line. Get Derek Foster on the line. I want surveillance on Harrison starting now. Rebecca pulled out her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. What about the SEC team? Let them come. By tomorrow morning, Harrison will be too busy defending himself to remember he ever heard of Phoenix Securities. The intercom buzzed. Sir, his security chief's voice came through. Mrs. Kane is in the lobby. She's demanding to see you. Robert checked the security feed on his monitor. Diane stood at the reception desk, her usual polish cracking around the edges. The designer outfit couldn't hide the tension in her shoulders or the desperate gleam in her eyes. Have her escorted out, he commanded, and revoke her building access. Already done, sir. Rebecca watched the feed as security approached Diane. She's not alone, she observed. Black SUV waiting outside. Driver matches Michael Thorne's description. Send the footage to Jason, Robert ordered. I want to know everywhere that vehicle has been for the last week. His phone lit up with a text from Derek. Harrison took a meeting at the Peninsula last night. Same floor as Thorne's usual suite. Robert's expression hardened. They're coordinating their moves. Sloppy. He turned to Rebecca. How much does the staff know? Only what they need to. The official story is that Mrs. Kane is taking a sabbatical to focus on her charity work. Rebecca's tone turned cold, though the security team remembers how she treated them over the years. They're not exactly sympathetic. Good. Keep it that way. Robert pulled up his private email. I'm sending you documents from Catherine Thorne. Bank records showing unusual deposits to Harrison's wife's account, dated right after Patricia Morrison's divorce settlement. Rebecca scanned the records on her tablet. These could destroy his career. That's the point. Robert's phone buzzed again. Jason this time. The SUV's been to Queens 3 times this week. Storage unit district. He's spooked, Rebecca observed. Trying to move his leverage. Let him try. Robert's smile held no warmth. Derek's people are watching the unit. The moment he shows up, we'll have him on multiple felonies. The intercom crackled again. Sir, we have a situation. Someone just filed a complaint with social services. Allegations of abuse concerning Jason. Robert's expression didn't change, but Rebecca saw his hands tighten on the desk. Source: New employee in their system. Started last week. A pause. Sir, she bears a striking resemblance to Michael's sister. Amateur move, Robert scoffed. Jason? Already on it, Dad. His son's voice came through the speaker. Remember Monica Walsh from my chemistry class? Her mom works for social services. I helped Monica pass AP Chem last semester. Handle it, Robert commanded. Consider it done. Rebecca brought up another window on her tablet. Harrison's wife just posted on social media. Private yacht club dinner tonight. Guest list includes 3 board members from firms we're acquiring next month. They're trying to turn our partners against us. Robert's voice held a note of grudging respect. Creative, but futile. He pressed the intercom. Get me Wheeler and Ross. It's time to accelerate the Jensen merger. As Rebecca moved to comply, Robert's private line rang. The caller ID showed a number he hadn't seen in years, South Boston area code. Mickey McGinty's dead, the gruff voice announced without preamble. Found him behind his bar an hour ago. Heart attack, they're saying. Robert's expression didn't change, but Rebecca saw him reach for his father's old lighter. A tell she'd learned meant he was genuinely angry. Natural causes? About as natural as your father's were. The voice turned bitter. Word is some guys from Providence were asking questions about you last week. Mickey might have said the wrong thing to the wrong people. I see. Robert's tone could have frozen hell. Thank you for letting me know. He ended the call and turned to Rebecca. Find out who's running Providence these days. And get Jason. We need to accelerate our timeline. Rebecca nodded. Already typing. What about Diane's social circle? The Hamptons crowd? Send them the charity audit. Anonymous tip. Untraceable source. All of it. Robert's smile was predatory. All of it. Let them see exactly what their generous donations were funding. As Rebecca moved to execute his orders, she reflected on the 12 years she'd spent watching Robert Kane build his empire. She'd seen him destroy competitors, absorb rival firms, and turn enemies into allies. But this was different. This was personal. And Robert Kane took everything personally. The intercom buzzed one final time. Sir? His security chief sounded worried. We just got word. Your car's brake lines were cut? Robert's laugh held no humor. How many cameras cover the garage? For on that level alone. Good. Send the footage to Jason. Let's see who's getting desperate. Rebecca pulled up the garage security feeds, scanning for any sign of tampering. The image quality was excellent, another of Jason's upgrades to their systems. Even in the dim lighting, they could make out a figure in maintenance coveralls working on Robert's car at 3 a.m. Frame by frame, Robert ordered. There, when he turns toward the camera, Rebecca enhanced the image. The face was partially hidden, but the build was familiar. Michael's sister, she confirmed. Same woman who filed the social services complaint. Sloppy, Robert repeated. They're making mistakes. He turned to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. Time to make them pay for those mistakes. The morning sun climbed higher over Manhattan as Robert Kane and his loyal assistant continued their work, each move and countermove carefully calculated. Outside his office, Phoenix Securities operated as usual, trades executed, deals brokered, fortunes made and lost. But in that corner office, a different kind of transaction was taking place. The currency wasn't money, but power. And Robert Kane had spent a lifetime learning how to accumulate and wield it. The war had begun in earnest, and he intended to win. Chapter 5. The Inner Circle. Derek Foster's office in Boston's financial district didn't match his reputation. The furniture was plain, the decor minimal, but the security systems hidden behind the walls rivaled military installations. 20 years running the city's most successful private investigation firm had taught him the value of discretion. Michael Thorne isn't just running romance scams, Derek reported, sliding photos across his desk to Robert Kane. Look at who he's been meeting in Atlantic City. Robert examined the images. Michael sat at high-stakes poker tables, surrounded by men whose faces Derek had helpfully identified in the margins. Tommy Vega's crew, the East Coast premier loan sharks and money launderers. How much does he owe them? North of $2 million. Derek pulled up more files on his secure terminal. He's been borrowing to cover losses from his previous divorces. Seems not all his marks were as wealthy as they appeared. Robert's green eyes narrowed. And Diane? She doesn't know about the gambling. But Derek typed a command, bringing up surveillance photos. She's been meeting with lawyers. Not just divorce attorneys. Corporate specialists, tax experts. She's planning something bigger. Show me. Derek's fingers flew across the keyboard. Documents filled the screen. Shell companies, offshore accounts, complex financial structures. She's trying to attack Phoenix Securities directly. Using everything she learned watching you build the company. Amateur. Robert's voice held cold amusement. She never understood the difference between seeing something and knowing how it works. There's more. Derek hesitated. Catherine Thorne reached out. Says she wants to help. Michael's ex-wife? Robert leaned forward. Why? Revenge. Derek pulled up Catherine's file. Michael left her bankrupt and broken 5 years ago. She's been gathering evidence ever since, waiting for someone with the resources to use it. Robert studied Catherine's photo. Once a successful real estate agent, now waiting tables in Queens. Her fall from grace mirrored the pattern Michael would later perfect with his wealthy victims. What kind of evidence? He's got a storage unit in Queens, Derek quoted from his notes. Keeps trophies from all his cons recordings, photos, documents. Everything he needs to blackmail the women if they ever wise up. Location? Better than that. Derek smiled grimly. I've got the key codes. Catherine made copies before the divorce, just in case. Robert's phone buzzed, a text from Jason. Mom's lawyer met with SEC Deputy Director Harrison again. Same restaurant as Michael's sister. They're consolidating their forces, Robert observed. Getting sloppy. Speaking of sloppy, Derek brought up another window. Your wife's been talking to reporters, trying to spin a story about financial abuse, isolation from friends. Robert's laugh held no humor. Margaret's handling that angle. As if on cue, his phone lit up with a message from Margaret Wheeler. Statements collected from household staff. 15 years of documentation showing Diane's control over finances, social calendar, everything. Plus receipts for all those personal training sessions with Mr. Thorne. Ready to release when you give the word. Your boy's been busy, Derek noted. Those staff statements are thorough. Jason understands the value of detailed records. Robert's pride was evident. He also understands loyalty should be rewarded. Derek nodded toward his security screens. Speaking of loyalty, your executive assistant's been targeted. 3 men followed her home last night. Professional job, but sloppy execution. Rebecca can handle herself. Robert's tone was confident. But have your people watch her place anyway. If they try anything. Already done. Derek pulled up another file. Now, about Tommy Vega. My sources say he's looking to expand his operations into Manhattan's high-end clubs. The kind of places where personal trainers meet wealthy clients. Robert's expression turned predatory. Send me everything you have on Vega's organization. And Derek? Make sure Catherine Thorne gets a generous, anonymous donation. Enough to start over somewhere nice. What about her evidence against Michael? Keep it in reserve. When we move, I want it to come from all directions at once. Derek recognized the look in his old friend's eyes. He'd seen it decades ago in Boston's South End, when Robert was just a street kid fighting his way up. The polished corporate facade might fool Manhattan's elite, but underneath, the predator remained. You could just destroy them financially, Derek suggested. Clean, simple, legal. No. Robert stood, straightening his tie. They didn't just try to take my money. They tried to take my family. His voice turned cold. That requires a more personal response. As Robert left the office, Derek reflected on their shared past. He'd watched his friend rise from nothing, building an empire through a combination of brilliance and ruthlessness. Now someone had been foolish enough to threaten that empire. Heaven help them all. Chapter 6. Pawns and Queens. Diane Kane's social circle began crumbling on a Wednesday afternoon. She sat in her usual chair at the Hampton Beach Club's monthly charity committee meeting, watching as her carefully constructed world imploded. These financial records, Victoria Sheffield, committee chair and self-appointed queen of Hampton society, tapped the manila envelope on the table. They proved that charitable donations were being redirected. That's ridiculous, Diane protested, but her voice lacked conviction. She knew exactly what those records would show. Years of creative accounting disguised as administrative costs. The Cancer Research Fund. Another committee member read from the documents. Only 30% actually reached the hospitals. The rest vanished into offshore accounts. In the Children's Education Initiative, Victoria continued, her voice dripping disdain. Apparently pays for quite a few personal training sessions at exclusive gyms. Diane's phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Everything's falling apart. My clients are canceling. Someone sent them proof of everything. She excused herself from the meeting, hurrying to the club's powder room. Her hands shook as she dialed Michael's number. They had videos, he said without preamble. From the storage unit. Everything I saved to protect us. They found it all. How? Catherine. Michael's voice cracked. My ex-wife. She must have kept copies of the keys. A pause. Diane, Tommy Vega's people are looking for me. They say I owe them money. We'll figure something out, she promised. But the words rang hollow. Her phone chimed with an email notification. The sender was anonymous, but the attached photos made her blood run cold. Michael with Patricia Morrison, with Amanda Hayes, with Jennifer Cooper. Each image dated and time-stamped, proving the pattern of seduction and betrayal. Diane? Victoria's voice came through the powder room door. The board would like to speak with you. About the missing funds. She looked in the mirror, seeing her perfect facade beginning to crack. Robert had warned her once years ago. In this world, you're either the predator or the prey. She'd thought herself clever, using his lessons against him. Now she understood. She'd never been the predator. She'd just been prey that didn't know it yet. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her lawyer. SEC investigation dropped. Deputy Director Harrison resigned this morning. Something about offshore bribes. Another text followed immediately. Your accounts are still frozen. The Hamptons house transfer has been flagged for criminal investigation. I can't help you anymore. Diane started to reply, but her phone screen suddenly filled with data. Records of her own offshore accounts, emails to Michael, plans for destroying Phoenix securities. All the evidence she'd thought safely hidden. A final message appeared. Mom, you taught me to always have a backup plan. I learned from the best. Jason. She sank onto the powder room couch, her designer outfit suddenly feeling like a costume. Outside, she could hear Victoria reading more damning evidence to the committee. Her phone lit up one last time. Robert's number. I assume you've seen the files. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Jason did excellent work, don't you think? He gets his attention to detail from you. Robert, please. No. The gentleness vanished. You chose this path, Diane. You and Michael thought you could play games with my family. Now you get to learn what that really means. The line went dead. Diane Kane sat in the Hampton Beach Club's powder room, listening as her social circle dissolved into whispered accusations and shocked revelations. Her phone continued buzzing with cancellations, party invitations rescinded, charity board positions regretfully terminated, social connections severed. In his penthouse office, Robert Kane watched the destruction unfold on multiple screens. Security feeds showed Diane leaving the beach club, her usual confidence shattered. Financial trackers displayed Michael's assets disappearing one by one. News alerts reported the SEC deputy director's resignation amid scandal. Jason sat at the conference table, orchestrating their digital warfare with the same precision his father brought to corporate raids. Mom's lawyer just withdrew from the case, he reported. Seems someone sent his firm proof that she was planning to implicate them in financial fraud. Robert nodded in approval. And Michael? Tommy Vega's people found him at the peninsula. They're having a discussion about his gambling debts. Father and son shared a look of perfect understanding. The war wasn't over, but victory was in sight. Their enemies had played at power, thinking wealth and social status made them untouchable. They were about to learn the difference between playing at power and truly wielding it. The Kane men had been born predators, and predators always caught their prey. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. The Atlantic City Police found Michael Thorne's body at 4:37 a.m. in Suite 1504 of the Ocean View Casino Hotel. Detective Sarah Martinez stood in the doorway, taking in the scene with practiced detachment. Preliminary cause of death? She asked the medical examiner. Blunt force trauma, Dr. Chen replied, pointing to the wounds. Multiple attackers, based on the angle of strikes. Made to look like a typical mob hit. Martinez examined the room. No signs of forced entry. 2 glasses on the bar, one with lipstick traces. The wall safe stood open and empty. Time of death? Between midnight and 2 a.m. Hotel security cameras went dark during that window. Routine maintenance, supposedly. Martinez's phone buzzed. Victim's background check just came in. Former Olympic swimmer turned personal trainer. But look at these flags. Suspected connections to multiple fraud schemes, links to organized crime. Tommy Vega's crew, her partner added, entering the room. Word is Thorne owed them serious money. Over $2 million in gambling debts. Convenient, Martinez mused. She picked up a manila envelope from the desk. Inside were photos. Michael with various wealthy women, including his most recent companion, Diane Kane. Mrs. Kane's statement? She asked. Claims she was with friends at the Hampton Beach Club until midnight. Multiple witnesses confirm it. Martinez nodded toward the laptop on the desk. Tech team find anything? That's the interesting part. Her partner lowered his voice. Laptop's clean. Too clean. Like it was professionally wiped. But we found this in the printer memory. He handed her a document. Martinez scanned it quickly. Offshore account numbers, transfer records, detailed plans for blackmailing wealthy women. He kept records, she observed. Not just records. Insurance. Her partner pointed to a name in the document. See who signed off on these transfers? SEC Deputy Director Harrison. The one who just resigned over bribery charges. Martinez's phone buzzed again. Speaking of Harrison, his wife just came forward. Says Thorne blackmailed them using photos from his training sessions with her. How many others? At least 3 confirmed cases. Patricia Morrison, Amanda Hayes, Jennifer Cooper. All followed the same pattern. Seduction, divorce, financial ruin. The scene started coming together in Martinez's mind. Michael Thorne wasn't just a con man. He was a predator who had finally chosen the wrong prey. Her phone rang. The chief of detectives. Martinez, we're shutting down the investigation. Sir? Tommy Vega's crew just claimed responsibility. Gambling debts, warning to others who don't pay. Case closed. Martinez looked at the evidence spread before her. The 2 clean crime scene, the conveniently timed security camera outage, the perfectly preserved documentation of Thorne's crimes. And Robert Kane, she asked. What about him? His wife was Thorne's latest mark. His company was targeted by the SEC right after Harrison met with Thorne. Seems relevant. Not anymore. The chief's tone brooked no argument. Kane's got friends in the department. High up. This goes down as a mob hit, clean and simple. Martinez ended the call, studying the crime scene one last time. Everything pointed to organized crime, exactly as someone wanted it to appear. In her 15 years on the force, she'd learned to recognize when certain doors were meant to stay closed. This was one of them. Her partner gathered the evidence bags. Heading to the lab? No. Martinez removed her gloves. This one's done. Sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom. Across town, Diane Kane sat in Margaret Wheeler's office, staring at the morning newspapers. Michael's death dominated the headlines, each story highlighting his criminal connections. I want to make a deal, she said, hands shaking as she signed the preliminary divorce papers. I'll return everything. Margaret Wheeler's expression remained professionally neutral, but her eyes held no warmth. Everything isn't enough anymore. She slid another document across the desk. Robert's countersuit for damages exceeds the value of all assets in your name. However, he's willing to be reasonable, provided you agree to certain terms. What terms? Full confession of your role in the charity fraud. Detailed testimony about Michael's operation, including how you helped him target other wealthy women. Your social connections were valuable to him, weren't they? Diane's carefully maintained facade cracked. He'll destroy me. No, Margaret corrected. You destroyed yourself. Robert's offering you a chance to survive. I suggest you take it. The intercom buzzed. Mrs. Kane's son is here. Jason entered the office, laptop under his arm. His green eyes, so like his father's, met Diane's without emotion. The files you asked for, Ms. Wheeler. He placed a USB drive on her desk. Complete records of the offshore accounts, including Mom's digital fingerprints on the transfers. Diane stared at her son, seeing Robert's ruthless efficiency in his movements. Jason, please, save it. His voice could have frozen fire. Dad wanted to make sure you understood exactly what you're agreeing to. He opened the laptop, turning it to face her. This is what happens if you refuse the deal. Diane watched in horror as her entire life unraveled on screen. Bank records showing her complicity in Michael's schemes. Emails proving she had helped him target other women. Security footage from their meetings, carefully edited to paint the most damning picture possible. "How long?" she whispered. "I started tracking you the day you first met him," Jason replied. "Dad taught me to always watch for threats to the family, even from within." Margaret placed a final document before her. "Sign here. Initial each page. When you're done, you'll receive instructions regarding your new employment and living arrangements." New employment? A receptionist position. In New Jersey. Margaret's smile held no warmth. "The monthly restitution payments will ensure you remember the cost of betrayal for a very long time." Diane picked up the pen, her hand trembling. Each signature felt like another nail in the coffin of her old life. "The Hamptons house?" she asked quietly. "Returned to its rightful owner," Jason answered. "Along with everything else you tried to steal." As Diane signed the final page, Margaret pressed the intercom. "Send in the notary." In his Phoenix Securities office, Robert Kane watched the scene unfold through the secure video feed. Diane's complete surrender. Jason's cold efficiency. Margaret's professional brutality. The pieces had fallen perfectly into place. Michael eliminated by his own criminal connections. Diane reduced to nothing. Their entire network of conspirators exposed and destroyed. His phone buzzed, a text from Detective Martinez. Case closed. Mob hit, officially. Robert smiled. Even the cleanup had gone according to plan. Some would call it overkill. But Robert Kane hadn't built his empire by showing mercy to those who betrayed him. And he certainly hadn't raised his son to be weak. The predator had caught his prey. And the message was clear. Cross the Kane family, and destruction would be total and absolute. The reckoning was complete. Chapter 8. The Resolution. 1 year later, Robert Kane's corner office at Phoenix Securities hummed with quiet power. He studied the quarterly reports with satisfaction. The company hadn't just survived the attempted coup. It had emerged stronger, its reputation for weathering storms only enhanced. "The Jensen merger numbers," Rebecca said, placing a thick folder on his desk. Her promotion to Chief Operations Officer had proven to be one of his best decisions. "We're exceeding projections by 20%. Good." Robert noted her fully recovered mobility, all traces of the car accident erased. "The board meeting? Scheduled for 2. Though there's something else you should see first." Rebecca activated the secure screen on his wall. Jason's latest project at MIT. The screen filled with complex code. A new security system that would revolutionize digital banking. At 16, his son had already earned early admission and a full scholarship. More importantly, he'd proven himself worthy of the Kane legacy. The patent applications? Filed last week. Rebecca's smile held genuine pride. He's already received offers from 3 major tech firms. Robert's phone buzzed, a text from Derek Foster, monthly surveillance report on D. Still working reception at the medical office. No violations of the agreement. Another message followed. KT used the money well. Started a successful real estate agency in Seattle. Far from her ex-husband's hunting grounds, Catherine Thorne had proven herself a valuable ally. Her evidence had helped seal Michael's fate, and Robert believed in rewarding loyalty. The anonymous donation that helped her rebuild her life was just good business. "Sir?" Rebecca interrupted his thoughts. "Margaret Wheeler's here." Margaret entered, impeccably dressed as always. "Quarterly compliance review," she announced, placing a tablet on his desk. "Everything's clean. The SEC investigation is officially closed. All traces of Harrison's corruption buried in bureaucratic hell where they belong. And our other matter? The last of Michael's victims received their settlement payments. His previous hunting grounds are scorched earth now. No one will ever know the full extent of his operations." She paused. "Or how they really ended." Robert nodded in approval. The official story, a mob hit over gambling debts, had held firm. Even Detective Martinez's final report supported the narrative, though her eyes had told a different story. "The Hamptons property? Transferred back to your name, all fraud investigations closed. The social circle that abandoned Diane? Margaret allowed herself a small smile. They're desperate to prove their loyalty now. And the charity boards? Completely restructured. The new directors understand the importance of proper oversight and proper gratitude. Robert turned to the window, surveying his domain. Manhattan spread before him, its towers reaching toward the sky. Each building held stories of power and betrayal, of predators and prey. He'd chosen his role long ago, in Boston's unforgiving streets. Diane and Michael had mistaken his civilized veneer for weakness. Their final mistake. "Rebecca," he called, "clear my schedule for tonight. Family dinner." Chapter 9. New Beginnings. The private dining room at the Pierre Hotel offered the perfect combination of luxury and discretion. Robert watched with pride as Jason outlined his latest technological innovation, the boy's confidence matching his father's own. "The encryption system is completely new," Jason explained, pulling up diagrams on his tablet. "No one else has anything like it. The same way no one ever traced what you did to Mom's accounts." Robert's question carried no judgment, only appreciation. Jason's smile mirrored his father's. "You never told me how you knew about what I did with her files." "The same way I knew you'd find what was in Michael's storage unit." Robert poured 2 glasses of sparkling water. "Because you're like me. You understand that justice and revenge aren't always found in courtrooms. Was it worth it?" Jason's question held genuine curiosity. "All of it." Robert considered the cost, the careful manipulation of evidence, the strategic deployment of allies, the calculated destruction of those who had dared to threaten his family. "Family is everything," he said finally. "Real family. The kind that stands together when the world burns. Everything else is just details." He thought about Diane, now living in her small New Jersey apartment. Each month, her restitution payment reminded her of the price of betrayal. The security cameras in her building ensured she never strayed from the path laid out for her. Michael's end had been cleaner, a cautionary tale for others who might target wealthy families. The official investigation was closed, the truth buried beneath layers of carefully constructed evidence. "The company's bigger than ever," Jason observed. "The attacks actually made us stronger. Because we were prepared." Robert's voice carried the lesson he'd learned in childhood. The world belongs to those who understand power. How to get it, how to keep it, and how to destroy those who threaten it. Father and son shared a moment of perfect understanding. The scared boy who had once asked why Mommy wasn't coming home was gone. In his place sat a young man who had proven himself worthy of the Kane name, and all it represented. To family, Robert raised his glass. To power, Jason replied, completing their private toast. Outside the window, Manhattan's lights glittered like stars, indifferent to the small dramas of revenge and justice played out in their shadow. Robert Kane had risen from Boston streets to command this glittering realm. His son would rise even higher. In the end, it wasn't about the money or even the betrayal. It was about power, who had it, who lost it, and who knew how to use it. Robert Kane had learned that lesson in Boston streets long ago. Now his son understood it too. Some debts can only be paid in blood and tears. Some lessons must be written in scars. But family, real family, emerges stronger from the flames. The Kane legacy was secure, and any who dared threaten it would learn the same brutal lesson as those who came before. In this world, you're either the predator or the prey. The Kanes had made their choice long ago. They were apex predators, and they always would be. Epilogue. 10 years later, the top floor of Kane Tower dominated Manhattan's financial district, its sleek glass and steel design a testament to power and progress. Jason Kane stood at his father's old desk, now his own, reviewing the latest acquisition reports. At 26, he'd already surpassed most of his peers, transforming Phoenix Securities into a global powerhouse. "The Singapore merger is complete," his assistant announced through the intercom. "And your father's jet just landed." Jason checked his Patek Philippe watch, a gift from Robert on the day he took over as CEO. "Schedule the board meeting for tomorrow. And Sarah? Make sure the secure files are ready." Robert Kane's retirement from active management hadn't diminished his influence. If anything, stepping back had only made him more dangerous. He now operated in the shadows, manipulating markets and destinies with the same ruthless efficiency he'd shown a decade ago. The elevator doors opened silently. Robert entered, his hair now silver but his green eyes as sharp as ever. "The Hong Kong situation?" "Handled," Jason replied, pulling up data on his screens. "Their attempt to block our expansion was discouraged." Robert's smile held pride and approval. "Their regulatory chairman received proof of his connections to certain triads. He resigned this morning." Jason brought up another window. "His replacement understands the benefits of cooperation. Like father, like son." Robert settled into a chair, studying the empire he'd built and his son had expanded. "Speaking of old friends, I had lunch with Derek Foster yesterday." Jason raised an eyebrow. "How's retirement treating him?" "His daughter runs the agency now, but he keeps his hand in." Robert's expression turned thoughtful. "He mentioned seeing Diane." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Even after 10 years, Jason's mother remained a sensitive subject. "Still at the medical office?" Robert nodded. "Reception desk, just as planned. The monthly payments continue." He paused. "She asked about you." "Did she?" Jason's voice held no question, no emotion. "Wanted to know if you'd received her letters." "They're filed with the others." Jason gestured to his secure server. "Unopened, but preserved. In case they ever become relevant." Robert approved of his son's caution. The betrayal that had shaped their family's destiny had taught valuable lessons about preserving evidence and maintaining control. "Rebecca's retirement party is next week." Jason changed the subject. "You'll be there?" "Wouldn't miss it." Robert smiled at the mention of his former assistant. "How's her successor working out?" "Monica Walsh?" "Excellent." Jason's lips curved slightly. "Her mother still works for social services." Useful connection to maintain. The mention of social services brought back memories of their old war. The false abuse allegations had backfired spectacularly, thanks to Monica's intervention. Now her daughter served the Kane family interests, ensuring the cycle of power continued. "I saw Catherine Thorne's real estate empire made the Forbes list," Robert noted. "Quite a success story. Our investment paid off well." Jason brought up the financials. "Her agency controls 30% of Seattle's luxury market now, and her client list provides excellent intelligence." "Margaret Wheeler called," Robert added. "Her firm's handling the antitrust litigation." Jason nodded. "Already discussed. The evidence against our competitors will be compelling." Their conversation was interrupted by a secure message. Jason read it quickly, his expression hardening. Michael Thorne's sister surfaced in Boston, trying to shop a story to publishers about his mysterious death. Robert's eyes glinted. "After all these years?" "She's desperate. Lost everything in crypto scams." Jason pulled up surveillance photos. "Living in a motel off Route 1. Drinking heavily. Like brother, like sister." Robert mused. "Handle it." "Already done." Jason displayed another document. Anonymous tip to Boston PD about her involvement in some unsolved robberies, plus evidence of tax fraud. "She'll be indicted by morning." Robert studied his son with pride. The boy who had helped destroy his mother's betrayal had grown into a man who understood the true meaning of power. Every move calculated, every threat eliminated. "I'm having dinner with Victoria Sheffield tonight," Jason mentioned. "The Hampton Beach Club crowd still proves useful. The same people who abandoned your mother? Now they compete for our attention." Jason's smile was cold. Amazing what fear and greed can accomplish. The sun began to set over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. Father and son stood at the window, surveying their domain. Tommy Vega's son reached out. Jason said quietly, "Wants to discuss expanding their operations. The Atlantic City interests, among others." They never found proof about Michael's death. Jason's tone held dark amusement. "Though they appreciated our assistance in locating him." Robert nodded approvingly. The official story had held for a decade. A simple mob hit over gambling debts. Only a select few knew the truth about that night in the Ocean View Casino Hotel. "Detective Martinez retired last month," Robert mentioned. "The case remains officially closed. Her pension is quite generous." Jason agreed. Anonymous benefactors can be very kind. A notification popped up on Jason's screen. Movement detected at Diane's apartment. The surveillance system they'd maintained for 10 years never slept, never failed. She's seeing someone, Robert observed. A doctor from the medical office. I know. Jason pulled up the man's complete background check. Divorced, 2 kids, substantial debt. No threat to us. You're still watching her. I watch everyone. Jason's voice was matter of fact. It's what you taught me. Robert remembered that crucial moment 10 years ago, when his teenage son had revealed the evidence of Diane's betrayal, the beginning of their transformation from mere wealthy family to true power players. The world's changed, Robert mused. But the rules haven't. Jason closed his screens. Predator or prey. No middle ground. Their private elevator arrived, ready to take them to their waiting cars. 2 generations of Kane men, each having shaped the city's destiny in their own way. Join me for dinner? Robert offered. That little Italian place in the village? The one where you first taught me about leverage? Jason smiled at the memory. Remember the waiter who tried to blackmail his manager? Your first practical lesson in handling threats? Robert checked his phone. They're still in business, thanks to our intervention. Loyalty should be rewarded, Jason quoted his father's old lesson. They descended toward the streets of their kingdom, discussion turning to lighter matters, investments, acquisitions, the occasional necessary destruction of those who opposed them. In her New Jersey apartment, Diane came prepared for another day at the reception desk, the weight of her monthly restitution payment heavy on her mind. The security cameras hidden in her building recorded her movements, feeding data back to her son's servers. In Seattle, Catherine Thorne reviewed property listings worth millions, her real estate empire built on the ashes of her ex-husband's destruction. She never spoke of Michael or the night he died, but she sent regular intelligence reports to the Kane family, maintaining the alliance that had saved her. In Boston, Detective Martinez enjoyed her retirement, carefully avoiding certain questions about old cases. Her generous pension ensured her continued discretion about the true nature of justice. And in the gleaming towers of Manhattan, the Kane men continued their reign. Robert's silver hair and Jason's technological empire marked the only real changes time had brought. Their core nature, predatory, ruthless, unforgiving, remained eternal. The sun set over the city they controlled, its light reflecting off Kane Tower's windows like a crown of fire. Inside, father and son raised their glasses in their traditional toast. To family, Robert began. To power, Jason completed. The cycle continued. The strong ruled, the weak served, and those foolish enough to threaten the Kane family learned the same lesson Diane and Michael had discovered a decade ago. Some powers are best left unchallenged. Some predators are best left unhunted. And some betrayals demand a price that never stops being paid. The Kane legacy endured. In boardrooms and back alleys, in legal documents and encrypted files, their influence shaped the world. The methods might change, Jason's digital empire complementing Robert's old-school power plays, but the fundamental truth remained. They were apex predators. Always had been. Always would be. And the hunt never really ended. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.